What is up, True Crime World? You're here with Luminol on the Wall. I'm Becky.
And I'm Bevy.
And today's case has been sitting with me ever since I learned about it. It starts in this really normal college town, like the kind of place where nothing bad is supposed to happen. This young woman goes to work one morning, everything seems routine, and then she just vanishes. No big scene, there's no clear answers, but there's just enough left behind to make everyone realize there's something very wrong. Her name is Brooke Wilberger. But before we get into today's case, sister chat time.
Yes, and I have the cutest thing to tell you. Like, so cute. Okay, so as we know from last week, I have this weekly planner thing I've been using, and I use it just to organize my thoughts. So included, what I put in that is my meal plans, what I'm going to have for dinner. And also what am I going to do with my son today to get him out of the house and just kind of break up our day a bit, right? So today I was I'd put in there, I'm going to go do a mall adventure. And at the mall, there's this thing called the Wildlife Park Adventure. And it's just a little play area where you can go. So of course, I'm yeah, I'm doing this today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Colson's a little older. You know, he's pulling up to stand. He's crawling like a pro. So I was it might be better than the last time I was there. Anyways, we go. And Colson, he just, when he gets in a place like this, he just sits there and takes everything in, right? So he's a little bit hesitant and just still for a little bit. But then he starts to explore. And literally, Becky, there was 7 kids that were so intrigued by him. Older, 2 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old. And they literally all circled Colson. And he would crawl somewhere and the whole circle around him would just move for
It's where you go, we go.
Time, Becky, the whole time. All of their moms came over give the baby space, give the baby space. And they wouldn't. They didn't listen. They were just no. One boy was rubbing Colson's back.
Aww.
Another one was rubbing his little head. Another one was holding his hand.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it was literally the cutest thing I've ever seen. And even other kids around Colson's age, there was a 1-year-old and Colson's 9 months, no one was around him. I don't know what it was about Colson at that little play place, but whoa.
Your baby drew a crowd.
Yeah, and it was just the sweetest thing. Colson was just staring at everyone, and it was kind of funny because he'd try and crawl and everyone's kind of in his way. He'd sit back and just stare at them
He's I am trying to move.
Yeah.
But you guys are my new friends, so I won't get upset.
Yeah, it was just really cute to see.
Aw, little Coley. Well, he's very magical. I see why they'd want to be around him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
I was I don't know what it is, but he is a pretty cute kid.
Oh, God. He's too much cuteness, to be honest, but just makes you want to squish his face and eat him.
His little cheeks. Nom, 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 nom. I know.
We do that all the time. Nom, 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 nom.
I know.
God, we're such dorks.
I think it's pretty normal when you see a cute baby. They're just so squishy and yummy. I don't know what it is. Also, I think it's pretty common to pat the butt, poop, 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 pat, 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 pat. It's oh, so cute. You're so cute. Pat, 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 pat. Yeah, it's cuteness aggression.
Yeah, it's too much for our brains to handle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. But God, he's so cute. I can't. Well, obviously everyone sees what we see, so
yeah,
we're not even biased, and now everyone knows.
Exactly. There you go. So anything new with you? Because I feel I've hogged our sister chats recently.
Not really.
Mom did tell me that you were falling asleep on a coil mattress when you went mattress shopping with her.
I didn't fall asleep. I heard
she
everything.
Said you were almost. She's your eyes were going in and out of consciousness. Then you looked at her and you guys just burst out laughing.
Well, she literally said, "Oh, look, she's falling asleep." And I was I looked over because I was I hear everything you're saying. I'm just comfortable.
Oh, yeah. And there's the other side of the story.
Yeah, I was just super comfortable. And I was just waiting because they were chatting about Mom's delivery date. And I was wow, that's boring. I don't need to be involved. So I'm going to lay on this
Might as well relax.
Super comfy mattress. What I did learn about myself while mattress shopping, though, is that apparently I like a very soft mattress.
I believe that, actually.
Yeah, like mom went in, she's like, I want a firm mattress. And I was like, ugh. Did I tell you? I don't know. I literally tried to jump on this memory foam one that was a firm mattress. Bev, I
Yeah.
swear to God, I almost broke my goddamn back. Because it was so high up, I had to like hop up and I landed and I was like, oh, like, when you jar your spine, you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I do know.
Like,
Oh,
might have to like workers'
that was
comp
harder than
here.
I
Oh,
expected.
God. It really like jarred me. I didn't expect it to be so firm.
Oh my
Anyways,
God. Becky
yeah.
like winds up, runs up like she's about to do a high jump, like bam.
It was like jumping on a table. My
Oh
spine took
God.
like the full brunt of it. Like, thank God I didn't get much air. You know,
Yeah.
no major damage, but geez, it shocked me. Anyways, I do like a soft mattress though. I literally was laying on one because I said I think I like a softer mattress, and the sales lady came up and she's like, "Wow." I obviously had chosen one to lay on. I was like, "This is so comfortable." She's like, "You really do like a soft mattress." I was like, "Yes. Yes, I
Yes.
do." The good
I
thing with
mean,
Go ahead.
if your old body can take it,
Hey now.
then go for it, That's how I think of
I
it.
figure I got at least 10 years of a soft mattress in my life.
Until you're like forced into the firmer mattresses, right?
Yeah, like when your bones can't handle the soft mattress.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got like
Yeah.
at least maybe 15 years. 10 to
Oh,
15.
look at you.
Maybe 20.
You're limber.
Well, I feel that way currently, so.
Hey, what else could you ask for when you're 36? To feel limber still? Amazing.
Yeah, some people aren't, so
It's true.
doing pretty good.
All right. Well, I'm happy that you have found that out about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope the new mattress you are getting will be soft and to your liking.
Well, I'm not getting a new mattress.
But you're getting Mom's.
Oh,
The king size one.
Oh, yeah, which I'm slightly worried about. Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
don't like a firm mattress.
But you can get a sick topper.
I'm
Don't you
going
worry.
to get the best, softest, thickest mattress topper in the
Yeah.
goddamn world.
There you go. Look at you go.
But I've never had
Get
a
it.
king-size bed before, so I am excited because, then I can be cozy with my dog and Jamie.
Oh my God. Yeah. King size is where it's at, baby.
That's right. So, all right, Bev, why don't we get into the case today?
Yes, I can't wait. Let's get into it. I will start the case of Brooke Wilberger. So, Brooke, she was born in Fresno, California on February 20th, 1985, to Greg and Cammie Wilberger. She had a whopping 3 sisters and 2 brothers. She was the 5th born and was raised near Eugene, Oregon. Brooke was a graduate of Elmira High School, where she was an honors student. On top of being an amazing and dedicated student, Brooke was a well-rounded athlete. She loved running and had made the track team. She also loved playing basketball and snowboarding. Brooke also had a soft spot for animals and had many different interests like baking and scrapbooking. She also had a gift. She could make anyone feel great about themselves. The people closest to her also knew she had a really silly side and loved that about her. Now, growing up, Brooke wasn't allowed to date until she was 16 years old. And when she finally reached that age, she had her eyes on someone. And it was a boy named Justin. He was one of her childhood friends, and they really liked each other, and so they began dating. Now, just a little bit about these two. So, both of them grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. So, they had that in common. And after high school, Brooke was ready to experience life outside of this small town that she grew up in. So, she decided to attend Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And she decided to study speech pathology there. You see, when Brooke was younger, she had issues with her speech, and she actually didn't begin speaking until the age of 4. So this became a major motivator for her to attend university, especially because Brigham Young had one of the best speech pathology programs, and she wanted to help people overcome their speaking issues and help them gain confidence through that. So during her freshman year, Brooke decided to return home for Thanksgiving weekend. And while she was there, she went shopping with her family, and a beautiful watch had caught her attention. She thought it was just so nice, and her mom, of course, made a mental note of it for Christmas that year. But eventually, Thanksgiving weekend had to come to an end, and when it did, Brooke returned to Utah. The rest of her year went great, but as summer break approached, Brooke decided to go home for the summer and work. She had got a job working at the Oak Park Apartments in Corvallis, Oregon. The apartments were managed by her older sister, Stephanie, and her husband. So it was easy for her to, get a summer job there. So on Monday morning, May 24th of 2004, Brooke left the house to go to work. And around 9 a.m., she arrived at work. At 10 a.m., Stephanie saw Brooke filling up a bucket of water. Regularly, Brooke would have had lunch with her sister and her kids who also lived at those apartments. So on that day, when lunch was ready, which was around 1 p.m., Brooke didn't show up. And initially, Stephanie wasn't too worried. After all, the complex was fairly huge, with over 100 units, and Brooke was probably just tied up cleaning something. And she thought that most likely she would be there in just a few moments. So they waited a little while, and still there was no sign of her. So Stephanie took her children, and they all went looking for Brooke around the complex to, let her know the food was ready, but they couldn't find her. Eventually, they stumbled across Brooke's flip-flops. They were actually sitting beside the water bucket she had been using earlier, next to a lamppost that she had been cleaning, but there was no sign of Brooke. So Stephanie examined the flip-flops a little bit more, and when she took a closer look, she noticed that the little anchor piece between the toes was ripped out on one of them. And there were actually what looked like muddy toe prints sliding down the sole of the shoes. Now, this is the moment she knew something was wrong. She didn't know exactly what had happened, but she knew that something wasn't right. So obviously, this little piece of evidence does suggest something, right?
Yeah, it sounds like she literally got pulled out of her shoes and taken.
Yes, exactly. And then pair that with her missing, it's pretty ominous. So when they still hadn't found Brooke or heard from her by about 3 o'clock, they decided to call 911. And at 3:07, she was reported missing. It was Stephanie's husband who had made the call. They also called all of her other siblings, and one of Brooke's brothers was tasked with calling their mom, Cammie, to tell her what was going on. Which, such a shitty job. Gotta say, that would be terrible to be the one to have to call your mom and let her know that, one of her daughters is missing.
Oh, I wouldn't want to be tasked with that at all.
Me either. So everyone's been informed, and the police arrive. They were told that Brooke's car was still there, so they searched it, and inside the car they noticed her wallet, purse, and cell phone still inside. Police also did see the flip-flops and the water bucket near the lamppost, and after looking around, that was actually all they could find. So the police began speaking with some of the residents of the complex, and they learned that morning, someone in the complex had heard a blood-curdling scream around 10:30 a.m. So after hearing this tidbit of information, police believed right from the get-go that this was an abduction. Now, initially, police thought, could this be the work of Brooke's boyfriend, Justin? I mean, you look at the people closest to the victim, right?
Yeah.
But that theory was very rapidly ruled out. He was, in fact, 4,000 miles away in Venezuela, serving a 2-year church mission. So
that makes it pretty hard to take someone, that's for sure.
True that. So in addition to Justin, Brooke's family was looked at, specifically Stephanie. I mean, she worked in the complex, she was probably the most closest proximity-wise to Brooke. And she was freaking grilled by officers. And of course, that probably really sucked for her. But the family agreed amongst themselves that they would do anything to help find Brooke, no matter how uncomfortable it made them. So getting grilled by the officers was the least of their concern.
Yeah, she's like, I'll just go with it because she knows she didn't do anything.
Yeah. She wants to give them also all the information possible.
Yeah.
So eventually, the news spread across the community that Brooke was missing. And initially, dozens of people showed up to help search. And that dozens soon turned to hundreds. And this carried on for days. And overall, when it comes to search parties, the more the merrier, right? But police did wonder if her killer was amongst them.
That's a creepy thought, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Especially because, like, they know they would know where she is. And they're just, like, pretending to search, like, with the masses, you know? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, that would be so creepy.
Yeah.
It's like at a funeral, the police look for guests at a funeral of murdered victims for the same reason, right? Like, who knows? I mean, just recently, we did a case where the killer went to the walk in support of the victim, right?
Yes, we did cover a case just like that.
So, I mean, it's not a far stretch to think that
someone would come search for her.
Yeah, absolutely not. Now, the police were also concerned because Corvallis was within 10 miles of Interstate 5, and that interstate had highways leaving Corvallis like in all different directions. So if Brooke had been taken in any of those directions, like she could be anywhere in the United States by now. They were also concerned because summer break was beginning for the university and thousands of students could be leaving the state for the summer, and it could be challenging to track down potential suspects. So they really felt that time wasn't on their side with this case.
I bet that's pretty overwhelming. Be like, oh my God, our suspect could be like leaving. And you know, who knows what all students do on their, summer break. Some literally go on vacation for 2 months, like completely out of the country. They go home, get summer jobs, it's just so hard to like keep track of everyone.
True that.
Yeah.
In addition though, like because it's so close to the interstate, someone could have just passed through and left almost immediately. Like, that would make it even more difficult because the person who might have taken her could literally be from anywhere, going to anywhere. Like, it would be a difficult case. So, of course, with the complexities surrounding that, the FBI joined in on the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, like the police had so little information to go on that the FBI profilers were not even able to make a profile. Now, this case in particular really scared the public, and it actually also reminded several mature residents that were locals of a notorious case from 30 years earlier in Corvallis, like almost to the day and just 1 mile away from where Brooke disappeared. A young Oregon State University student had also been taken, and her body was found mutilated. Her killer was eventually caught, and it was none other than Ted Bundy. So could Corvallis be going through this yet again?
And it's not like Corvallis is not like a huge place, from what I gather, Bevy. It's fairly small, so to have two really like two crazy cases like this is like I feel like it's out of the ordinary.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say that makes me understand it a bit more is like the location and the access to the interstates. That's the one thing like I could say, but also like crimes of abduction, like it's not like you hear about a lot of them in your same city, right?
Yeah, even like Calgary is pretty big. And I know there's been like several murders and stuff like that, but like really big cases where like
someone's taken out of their flip-flops, like,
Yeah, and like hundreds of people go out to search. Like there's not a lot of that going on here, and we're a fairly big city.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So it is crazy to have two like big cases like that.
Absolutely. So the public is obviously a little bit like on edge with hearing this.
For sure.
And in hopes of finding a lead, because as we know, the police don't have much right now, they went through a whole list of sex offenders in the area to see if any of them had taken Brooke. But every single one of them ended up being cleared. There were actually approximately 2,000 of them in the surrounding area, which is not only shocking just to hear of, but of course, it was a lot of work for the police officers to, clear all of them.
Oh, for sure. That's so many.
I know, isn't that like so fucked?
Yeah. Okay, you know how like I always see on like Dr. Phil that you can like go and look up your address and see how many sex offenders are in your local area?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm just looking in the wrong places, but I can't find that in Calgary.
No?
Yeah, like I don't know that we have that. And if maybe I'm just not looking up the right thing, but I feel like what I typed in was not like, I feel like it could have come up with that if it was available,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a me searching issue.
Yeah, maybe.
So if someone knows if there's like a sex registry that you can view online and see who's in your area and how many offenders are, please like let me know because I would be
Yeah, we'll
so
post it.
curious. Yeah.
We'll post it on our Instagram because I feel like that's like an important thing to know, actually.
Yeah, if we find
Especially
it.
now, like with a young child, I'm like, yeah, I would love to know, like, if there's little creeps nearby, you know?
Yeah, you want to know.
All right, so hit us up if you have any info. But back to the case. So, throughout the police's investigation, a man by the name of Sung-Koo Kim came to the police's attention about a week after Brooke had disappeared. Now, Sung-Koo was a 30-year-old man who lived with his parents. He had a degree in genetics and cellular biology. He was fairly reclusive, and his family lived in a suburb of Portland about 80 miles from Corvallis. And Sung-Koo spent most of his time on his computer doing online trading. Now, the reason why Sung-Koo came to the attention of investigators was because weeks before Brooke disappeared, police had been tipped off to some of Sung-Koo's deviant behavior, and they had actually got a warrant and performed a search of the Kim's family home. They had found thousands of women's panties that he had stolen from college dorm rooms in the area. They also found thousands of photos and videos of pornographic images, including tortured, raped, and mutilated women. They also found a document labeled OSU for Oregon State University. It appeared to be a how-to guide for committing a sex crime and even included a list of supplies, including gloves, video equipment, a hood, and a digital camera. They found a bag of lint in his home labeled with the name of a female student from Oregon State University. She was on the swim team and spent time with other swimmers at the Oak Park apartments where, if you remember, Brooke went missing.
That she did. So, I mean, as an investigator, I'm thinking like this is a good lead.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right?
Because he's already staking out women in the Oak Park apartments, right?
Yes. For the record, that document that was labeled OSU, it was just labeled that, I assume, to like distract people on what it was.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that is not an
Okay.
actual thing that they teach at the university.
Oh,
I mean, I thought that was obvious, but you know,
yeah.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Oh, that's so funny. Was she on the swim team at Oregon State University, this girl that he was like
Yes.
stalking?
Yes.
Like, so he was like, this is the girl from this, like, but we have to stop for a second, just like talk about what the fuck he's into right now. Cause like, that's scary as hell.
Well,
Like the supplies, the list of
Yeah.
supplies, like, come on.
Oh, for sure. It goes from just a little panty thieving to raping
Oh, yeah.
potential, right? Like, so
Yeah,
you just don't know what he was possibly capable of.
of course. And I feel like you might be asking, like, what the fuck was up with the bag of lint? Because
Surely.
the fuck? Who keeps their lint? Okay? Not
no
I.
one. No one.
No one.
Or very few people.
Very few people.
Very few.
Maybe people who have a dryer lint fetish, Becky, like
Mm-hmm.
Sung-Koo.
Sung-Koo.
So that is what investigators learned about him, is that he had developed a unique like fetish involving dryer lint, which he had collected while stealing panties. So Sung-Koo was looking very suspicious to them at this part. He was actually labeled as the panty thief by the media, but Sung-Koo's family believed he was innocent and actually did try to clear his name.
I mean, no one wants to think that their child is a hardcore panty thief and lint stealer.
Yeah, or potential like rapist, right?
Yeah, no one wants to think that of their own child, I'm sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to for sure. So after his name came to the investigators' attention, like before Brooke went missing, burglary charges were filed for stealing underwear from the dorms at Oregon State University. However, as creepy as this was, there was absolutely no evidence or nothing to connect him to Brooke's disappearance. In addition, Sung-Koo also had an alibi for May 24th. His computer showed that he was 75 miles from Corvallis at 11:14 a.m. when he purchased 500 shares through Ameritrade. In addition, a witness came forward stating that Sung-koo had answered the family's home at 12:10 p.m. that day, which didn't give him enough time to be at the apartment complex.
Yeah, and get
for
home.
the time of her disappearance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Video footage showed Sun-koo and his father entering an electronics store at 12:42 p.m. in Portland as well. And they also had a receipt from that same store at 1:11 p.m. So they had been there for about 30 minutes. So there was no way that Sun-koo could have taken Brooke. And with all of that evidence and information regarding his alibi and whereabouts for the day, you would think that they would have cleared him, but prosecutors went public with Sun-koo Kim as a person of interest in the case.
That's just too bad.
Yeah, it's going to tarnish his name a little bit. He might have a fetish and it's creepy as fuck, but not an abductor.
Not an
yet.
abductor. Yet is right.
But yeah, it would suck to have your name come up as that, right? It would probably isolate you and make you, people would look at you weird.
Oh, for sure. It's like when people are 100% cleared of a murder.
Yeah.
You know?
Suspicion lingers.
Yeah, people still think they're guilty, just because of the things they've heard and the accusations. So it kind of makes them, treat it as if they were guilty, even if they're not. And that's actually sad to me.
Yeah. I mean, conspiracy theorists, kind of hang on to stuff like that, right? What if investigators got it wrong? What if, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if Epstein's not dead?
Exactly, right? It just happens that way. That being said, months later, the investigators, or the prosecutors, finally cleared Sun-koo of anything to do with Brooke's disappearance. Now, just a tiny bit of information there. Sun-koo did end up doing 7 years in prison for his burglary charges. And after all of that, the Kim family ended up claiming excessive force during the raid of their home and sued the state, and they ended up settling for $300,000, Becky.
That's wild. You know what?
Whoa.
I would let the police storm through my door for $300,000.
Oh, man, right? You're like, oh. I wonder how much they ended up coming out on top, just out of curiosity, because, you'd probably have to pay lawyers, fixed damages if there was. Obviously, there should have been if they got that lump sum. I wonder how much they ended up walking away with, but either way, it is actually
not us to know.
Yeah,
for us to know.
Exactly, and it's pretty irrelevant to this case, so
100% it is.
Kind of a cool tidbit of information.
Yeah, was a suspect. Now he's not. Had an alibi.
Now he's not. Yeah, and his family came out on top financially after the fact.
That's right.
Okay, so the point that I want to make in all of this is that a lot of time and effort were used up in looking at Sun-koo and things like that. So at the end of it all, investigators were no further ahead than they had been months earlier. All of their leads essentially just dried up, and months went by with nothing. So police announced that the reward was doubled in hopes it would bring in new information. Then, in the last week of November of 2004, a tip came in from New Mexico that actually seemed promising. Apparently, a man named Joel Patrick Courtney had just been arrested for a brutal assault on a 22-year-old female in Albuquerque. So what had happened with that was a woman named Dara Finks had been driving in a tough neighborhood in Albuquerque with her 3 daughters. They were sitting at a red light when a girl came running across the street. She was naked. She ran up to a restaurant looking scared and frantic. No one was helping her. So Dara pulled around, and her daughter ended up getting out of the car and helped this poor woman over to their vehicle. And she told them that she had been kidnapped, but that she escaped. She also said that this person, this man who had taken her, had a knife and was trying to kill her. Dara told her to get in her car, and so she did.
Can you believe that that the restaurant, no one would help her? A naked woman comes running in saying, "I've been kidnapped, oh my God." And everyone's just like, "Get out, you're no shirt, no shoes, no service." Horrible.
Horrible, right? Oh, man. This kind of case gets my heart racing
Mm-hmm.
because, like, someone escaping a situation like that, like, they're still in danger, right?
Oh, for sure.
And what ends up happening after this woman gets in Dara's vehicle is that she suddenly starts becoming very scared and starts screaming, saying, "That's him! He's looking for me!" And this man who she's, pointing out was sitting at the light. Dara called 911 and told the operators what had happened, where they were, and also gave a description of the car that the man was in and the man himself. Police arrived immediately. Unfortunately, they had just missed, the unknown male at that time, but they did have, the description of his vehicle and himself, so at least they have some tips to kind of seek out finding him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, this woman who had apparently just been abducted and attacked was a 22-year-old college student, and she explained to police that she was walking home from work near the University of New Mexico campus around 6:45 in the evening when she noticed a red car parked on the side of the road with a man standing next to it. She kept walking past it, but a few steps later, she was grabbed from behind with a knife pressed against her neck. She was forced into the man's car and was sexually assaulted. He then drove to an apartment and stopped in the parking lot. He tied her up with her own shoelaces and went inside. She somehow managed to wiggle free and took off running, and that's when she was eventually rescued by Dara and her children. Now, everyone involved believed that if Dara hadn't been there that night, like, this man would have found the victim again, and all, like, believe something terrible would have happened to her.
Oh, for sure. The fact that she saw him, like, right there sitting at the lights.
Oh, God, like, he was close, right?
Oh, my
If no
God.
one had helped her, like, oh, my God.
Like, imagine
I
she
can't.
is, like, at the restaurant, like, help me, help me. She comes out because no one's helping her. Thank God Dara was there, because if she hadn't, literally, the timing would have been just like, oh, so
Yeah.
unfortunate. Like, oh my God, I can't. Divine intervention. Let me
100%.
tell you. Oof.
Yeah. So, obviously, with this whole situation, the perpetrator, we know, is still on the loose, but the victim gave an amazingly detailed description of her attacker and his car. She said the man was Caucasian with a shaved head and a hat on. She also remembered a small stuffed animal attached to the car's side window, which is a very unique, like, element to remember.
Yes.
Because that could truly help identify the person. Like, not everyone's going to have a small stuffed animal attached to, like, the side window.
Yeah.
So a detective named Ed Taylor and other Albuquerque detectives decided to start looking at the apartment complex where the victim had managed to escape from. And they went to the door of the apartment the attacker had apparently entered, and a woman answered. She told them she knew the man as Joe and that he spoke Spanish, but she was not willing to help beyond that. Which, I mean, for her to be like, I'm not willing to help beyond that, like, what do you think would motivate a woman answering a door like that to tell, like, why she would say that to detectives? I kind of want to know your opinion on it, and then I'll go through it, but
Okay, I have two theories.
go ahead.
He's a drug addict. Was she supplying him with drugs? Because, maybe she's scared to say any more because he's there for illegal reasons.
Okay.
So that's one. Number two, if he did this to this girl, maybe he's an absolute, like, dangerous man, and she knows it, and she's scared of him.
That's what I would think. Like, what if he's in the apartment at the time they arrive, and she doesn't want to say anything, like, you know what I mean? Like, what, I could just imagine him sitting behind the door being like, don't say anything or you're dead.
That's
you know?
right. Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
So, interesting theories. At the time that this occurred, Ed Taylor had gone back to his supervisor after hearing the woman, say this to him, and told his supervisor that he thought if he went back to this woman's apartment alone, she might give him more information. And Ed Taylor ended up being right. So when he had gone back to the apartment, he ended up explaining the whole situation to this woman, and reluctantly, she told him they might find his vehicle behind a restaurant south of Gibson. So he followed her instructions and ended up coming across a red two-door Honda Civic parked on a dead-end street with none other than a stuffed animal attached to the window. So Ed kind of stakes it out, right? Like, he knows this is probably the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he waits and then saw 3 guys walking out of a nearby house. Ed, I gotta say this is a ballsy move, calls out, "Joe!" And one of the men acknowledged him. Ed walked up to him and asked if this car was his, and the man said yes. Ed Taylor then asked him to turn around and arrested him right then and there. On him, officers found a glass pipe. As we know, like you said, Becky, he was a drug addict, and a knife. The man was Joel Patrick Courtney, who was later identified by the victim. He was charged with criminal sexual penetration, kidnapping, and aggravated battery.
Can you imagine, like, those circumstances? Like, sometimes police have such a hard time finding their perp, but this time, he just followed one lead and was like, I'm just going to test it out. Oh, you're Joe? That's your car? Cool. Okay, you're under arrest. Easy peasy.
Yeah, it worked out, right?
Like, wow. It doesn't always happen like that.
It's true. But luckily it did, because this guy seems to be pretty violent and a danger to women.
Yeah, like, get him off these streets.
Yeah. So once Ed arrests Joel, the police conduct a background check. At the time of his arrest, Joel was 38 years old and lived in one of Albuquerque's suburbs called Rio Rancho with his wife and 3 young children. He spoke fluent Spanish and had worked at times as a fisherman and mechanic all over the United States and Mexico. As a teen, he was in and out of juvenile detention for stealing and other offenses. Now, when he was 18, apparently he had actually admitted in court that he had sexually assaulted and beaten a woman he knew from high school. Ultimately, he blamed drugs and alcohol and was only given probation.
What?
In addition, 6 months earlier, Joel's wife had taken out a restraining order against him after he had choked her. They noticed that he also had a warrant out for his arrest, because apparently earlier in January of 2004, a coastal Lincoln County sheriff in Oregon had pulled Joel over and he was caught driving under the influence. He was given a court date for the end of May 2004, but he never showed up and a warrant was issued for his arrest. Now, if you guys are listening carefully, you would know that around May, Joel was in fact in Oregon.
Yep.
So this warrant is actually what compelled the detective to call Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. And when they heard the detail of Joel's most recent crime, they urged the detective to call Corvallis police. And so he did. So could Joel be the one who took Brooke? Was he even in that exact area the time she disappeared, right? So Corvallis police and the FBI decided to look into this. And what they decided to do was get into contact with some of Joel's family, specifically his older sister, Dina McBride, who lived in nearby Portland. And what Dina told them gave them a lot of insight to who Joel was. So she had said that when Joel was about 11 years old, he started hanging out with older kids who influenced him a lot. He had then begun using drugs and dabbling in Satanism and started becoming more violent. Dina said that when she was a teen, Joel had attacked her in the middle of the night. He had come into her room, put his hand around her neck, and attempted to sexually assault her. She ended up hitting him over the head with an alarm clock to stop him. And she also said that this wasn't the first time he did this. In addition, 2 other relatives of Joel's came forward to give police information as well. And they had similar accusations. They stated that he had raped and attempted to rape them, but at the time of, him doing all of this, no one had come forward to report him. Now, sometimes, Becky, people have the tendency to look at people's potential as opposed to their actions. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes people's poor decisions kind of get overlooked because you look at that person, you see potential in them, and you go, you could be something great. We're going to give you a shot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And while I don't think that's necessarily the wrong thing to do, what I am saying is that this is something that happened with Joel specifically. Because apparently, like, prior to his seriously concerning behavior, Joel was this charming young man who happened to have a genius level IQ, and that allowed him to get away with a lot of his bad behavior that happened after. But the trajectory of his life was already kind of going downhill despite people's belief and maybe his potential. And he ultimately didn't finish high school.
Mm. That's too bad considering how smart he was.
Right? Sometimes it's like the company you keep, right? It kind of shapes you. And unfortunately, he got him with a bad crowd, and it obviously brought out all of his terrible qualities and probably reinforced a lot of them. And obviously now he's a full-on violent criminal. So to give a little bit more information about Joel, in his late teens and early 20s, he worked various jobs and eventually met a woman from Mexico named Rosie. And when Joel was only 23, they married and had 3 children. Eventually his behavior did seem to calm down, and this allowed his family and him to settle in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But after hearing what Joel had done in Albuquerque to this young woman, his own family told police that they began to wonder if he had been the man who took Brooke in Oregon. After all, the situations were very comparable. Now, in addition to kind of the MO between both victims being similar, in May of 2004, so around the same time that Brooke headed back home for the summer, Joel and his family had temporarily moved to Oregon for work. Joel had gotten a job supervising a cleaning crew, which meant he would be traveling for work around the state of Oregon. Now, to kind of corroborate the fact that Joel was in Oregon in May, Dina had found and shown officers a picture of Joel at her home in May of 2004.
Yeah, it's here, look, I have a photo to prove it.
Yeah. Now, things get even sketchier when detectives learned that on May 24th of 2004, the day that Brooke went missing, Joel was supposed to be in court for his impaired driving charge in Oregon. And apparently, he had called the court that morning to let them know he was going to be late. However, he ended up never even showing up. Now, that phone call to the court was traced back to none other than Corvallis, where Brooke was. And apparently, after that phone call, Joel was MIA for about 36 hours before returning to Dina's home. He, in fact, told his family that he had been kidnapped, claiming that guys with guns and knives took him to the woods. He said that it was raining, there was a girl there, and that there was blood everywhere. Now, at the time, the story seemed outrageous, even to Joel's family. However, they thought, he's a chronic drug user, and they kind of honestly just assumed he was coming off a bender. So they didn't call the police with that information and just moved forward like typical Joel shenanigans.
Yeah.
However, to us, Becky, and I'm sure people listening, again, his story seems to be a half-truth of maybe what he did experience in those 36 hours. Was he abducted or did he abduct somebody? It does seem like he is kind of telling a half-truth and maybe giving us a little bit of insight into maybe what happened with Brooke.
Yeah, I mean, what I found the most interesting from that story is that he says there was a girl there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's if they
He's trying
find
to distance
anything,
himself.
Yeah, I was a victim in all of this, and so was the girl,
Yeah, but I wasn't the one who did anything to her.
Yeah, so that's what I found interesting with that story.
Yep. So in addition to what Dina had told them about Joel's, admission to where he was for 36 hours after Brooke went missing, they also learn that at the time of Brooke's disappearance, Joel had been driving a green Dodge Caravan with Minnesota plates. This vehicle had been supplied by the cleaning company he was working for at the time. What was shocking to the detectives about learning that Joel was driving a van at the time of Brooke's disappearance was that 2 separate tips had come in not long after Brooke went missing related to, information regarding a van. And at the time, that detectives had received these tips, the investigators couldn't connect them to anyone. And even though they were actually good tips, they ended up just drying up. So what were those tips? Well, the first tip came from a blonde female university student who called police and said that on May 24th, around 9:30 a.m., only about 100 yards north of where Brooke was taken, a white adult male in a green minivan approached her. He opened the back of his van to get a map, and the woman saw that there was a blanket sprawled out on the floor of the van. She was creeped out and rushed off, telling the man she was late for class.
Creepy.
Now, keep in mind, this is about 1 hour
Mhm.
before Brooke apparently was
Taken.
before she was taken, yeah, and someone heard a blood-curdling scream. So the second tip came from a university athletic official who called police and said that a white male in a Dodge Caravan, possibly green, with Minnesota plates, was in the university parking lot asking a female student for directions. This was also very close to where Brooke was taken. This student was later asked to look through a lineup, and she picked out Joel Courtney.
So he, this just shows, he's on the goddamn hunt that morning. He's
100%.
looking for a girl.
Yeah.
Now, typically, just asking for directions is not wrong, but, that athletic official was like,
Mhm.
this guy's creepy. Obviously, he gave everyone just some, fucked up vibes, and everyone's like, got to get away from him, right?
Now, when a man's asking only females for directions, I don't know. It's kind of creepy, you know?
Totally.
So they obviously have a buttload of information at this point,
Mhm.
connecting Joel Courtney to the disappearance of Brooke, but they don't have any hard evidence. So obviously the detectives are now on the lookout to find this green caravan because it's no longer the vehicle that he is driving, as it could possibly hold the key to solving this case. So they get to work real quick. And the van was eventually found in Washington State. And of course, they take it apart piece by excruciating piece and sent it to an FBI lab to be examined. But things like this take a little bit of time. So while waiting, the FBI starts to interview Joel, and he refuses to speak with them. And when he is shown a picture of Brooke, he denies ever knowing or ever seeing her. And then, on May 24th of 2005, 1 year after Brooke went missing, the FBI received a call from the lab. They had found Joel Courtney's DNA in the van, which makes sense, but they also found Brooke's DNA. In addition, in the carpet under the back seat, they found a mixed DNA sample consisting of both male and female DNA, and it was Joel and Brooke's. The DNA was in the form of bodily fluids, suggesting that Brooke had been raped. So after these findings, Brooke's family was immediately notified. And after all of this, Joel Courtney was charged with the kidnapping, rape, and the murder of Brooke Wilberger. The district attorney announced they would be seeking the death penalty. Joel was notified of this while in court in New Mexico. His defense attorney was handed the indictment and passed it to Joel. As he read the charges and saw the death penalty was being sought, he began to laugh. He started showing the other inmates in court that day almost as if he was proud of the crimes that he committed.
He's like, look
I
here,
was so
boys.
bad, I got the death penalty.
Yeah.
That's just sick and twisted,
I
right?
know. It's the more you start hearing about him, you're like, he is literally a horrible human.
Oh, yeah.
I hope his family got to experience good sides of him, when he settled down with his wife and children. I hope they got to see a good side of him, because currently it doesn't sound like he has any good sides.
Yeah, I would say no. Maybe evil to the core, actually. Yeah. Now, all of that being said, in terms of how he was almost proud of these crimes, he's a complete coward at the end of the day, because knowing that he'd have to eventually face court in Oregon, Joel does everything he possibly could to delay his trial in New Mexico. He doesn't want to face the music. You know what I mean? Officially, at least. He starts to refuse to communicate with his attorneys. He fires one of them, refused to show up for court proceedings, and then claimed he was mentally incompetent to stand trial. which forces the courts to have him examined by mental health professionals to determine whether he actually is in fact competent.
Which is just like delay after delay.
Yeah.
Like how annoying for Brooke's family.
Yeah, of course.
Because they're just like chilling in Oregon, waiting for someone to face the music, but he's just taking everyone's sweet ass time and wasting taxpayer dollars and just being difficult as shit.
Oh, 100%. That's why I say he's like a coward. Like, oh, look at my crimes to my inmates. And then he's like laughing about it. But when it comes time to actually like go through with, the consequences of his actions, like he just kind of finds any way to avoid them. And I just think that's lame as fuck.
Lame. Agreed.
So about 2 years after they find like Brooke's DNA in his vehicle, like almost 2 years, about a year and a half actually, in January of 2007, it was finally determined that Joel was mentally competent and his trial would finally end up commencing.
And keep in mind, that's New Mexico's trial.
Oh, exactly. Like he hasn't even begun to do the one for Brooke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in September of that year, Joel finally pleaded guilty to kidnapping and raping the New Mexico student. And at his sentencing, Joel told the judge he had no respect for the court, obvious, and that he thought the judge was the rudest person he had ever met. Oh my God.
We would be the worst judges, You know why I say that, Bev?
Because we like laugh at criminals.
Yeah, if someone said that to me, be like, okay, you're an idiot. Like, I'm rude. You killed someone or you raped someone. Like, goddamn. Like, shut the fuck up.
And killed someone.
Yeah, I mean, that is TBD at this moment.
I guess. But he was charged with murdering Brooke already.
Yeah, like the point still stands. But yeah, it's just like, I'm rude?
Yeah. Like, that's a joke, right? Like, that's the weirdest thing. Like, I can't even. Like, do you have self-awareness? The answer is no.
It's zero.
It's zero.
Zero self-awareness.
Like, seriously. So, despite Joel, like, slewing insults at this judge, the judge sentences him to 18 years in prison.
Good.
So, in addition to telling the judge that he was rude, Joel also told the judge that he would spit in his face if he were close enough, to just further prove his disgusting character.
I bet that judge is just sitting there and be like, wow, like, okay, what was the point in saying that, you little fucking child? Like, oh, if I could spit on your face, I would. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. What point are you trying to drive home here? You're still a criminal.
Yeah, have fun
and
in
I
prison.
still sentence you to 18 years.
Yeah.
Get fucked.
Exactly. So, like, obviously, regardless of what Joel says and the threats he makes, like, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
He was sentenced and would soon be sent to Oregon to face the courts for his crimes against Brooke Wilberger. So, fast forward approximately, like, 6 months or so, spring of 2008 rolls around, and Joel is now in Oregon. And he refuses to speak with the prosecution or the FBI about anything. So ultimately, Brooke's family is still grieving the loss of their daughter and sister, and they desperately wanted to recover her remains and have that closure. So they tried to work with the prosecution team and ended up coming up with a deal. And that was, if Joel would admit to the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Brooke and lead them to her remains, in exchange, he would receive life in prison without parole, and the death penalty would be off of the table. And when this deal was presented to Joel, he, again, refuses to give any answers. This goes on for months. And then when he finally did respond, he rejected the deal. And this was not only a blow to the Wilberger family, but to Joel's own family as well. Like, they all knew they would be testifying against Joel in a death penalty case. And I mean, that would be, that has its own challenges for his family members.
Oh, for sure. Like, we all heard what his sister told the FBI.
Oh, yeah.
About Joel's past and what he tried to do to her. Like, she would have to sit in a courtroom with her brother, like, staring her down, explaining that this bullshit happened to her.
Yeah, totally. Like, she would have to.
And it's one thing to tell it in, like, an interview and, like, private, right? It is one thing. But to actually have to testify against him in court and have him present, I think that would be really challenging for anyone.
Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, that is their brother as well, right? So that dynamic, it just poses its own challenges. And what was especially difficult was that Joel's family was pro-death penalty if the crime fit, right? So if he doesn't take this plea deal and he does go to trial, like we all know that that's on the table, right? So
Yeah.
that's tough for them too. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as painful as it was to like know that their brother could face the death penalty, they believed his crimes warranted it. They ultimately prayed about it, and if Joel wasn't willing to take the deal, they felt they had no other choice but to fulfill their obligation and testify against him.
Oh, God, a family after my own heart.
There you go, right?
Love
Yeah.
that. I love that. As most of you know, well, if you're new, you don't know, but I've always said to Bev, like, if you commit a crime, especially like murder or something, real bad, don't tell me. I'll turn you the fuck in. I don't care that I love you. I don't care that I'll miss you. I mean, I do care, but not enough to not turn you in.
Yeah, totally.
I will not be your true partner in crime. And so to hear a family be like, oh man, this really sucks, but I'm going to do what I got to do because his crime is bad and it warrants the death penalty. I will say what I need to say because, well, he did some pretty nasty things. And I love that. I love a family who will stand up for
on the
justice.
right side of the law.
Yes, I do love that. Love it. So, woohoo.
Yes, well, on the outside of the jail cell that Joel resides in, everyone is kind of struggling with the whole scenario, right? His family is struggling. Brooke's family is freaking struggling. I mean, he's denied their attempt to get her remains. That's awful. And on the inside of the jail, Joel's life was also basically falling apart. He had run out of all of his appeals in New Mexico, and details of Joel's crimes against these women began spreading throughout the Oregon jail system. And other inmates had serious issues with Joel's horrific crimes and his diabolical attitude. And so he was attacked and beaten pretty badly. And we kind of get a little bit of insight into, his attitude and how he kind of thinks he's just better than anyone, how he's like a little bit entitled and just like all about himself because he threw a fax machine at a jailhouse doctor when he wasn't given the anxiety medication that he wanted and was slapped with additional charges on top of everything he was already facing. But it just shows you like he's very emotionally immature, right? And thinks people should give him things like entitled to shit, like just bullshit. He's a terrible person. So it seems that everyone's kind of getting fed up with Joel. I mean, the inmates that he's surrounded with are fed up with him. I'm sure his family, Brooke's family, and also the Oregon prosecutor became fed up with Joel's antics and pushed him forward with the trial. And knowing that this would be brutal for both families, the judge requested that the prosecution and defense try to come to an agreement for a plea. But the only deal that Joel was willing to consider was that if he could serve his time in a New Mexico prison instead of Oregon. Because as we know, some Oregon inmates clearly did not take kindly to Joel, and he also wanted to be closer to his family. And honestly, the Wilbergers were completely fine with this, because anything that would help them find Brooke's remains was worth it to them. However, the courts needed approval from the governors of both states, which put the decision out of the court's hands. Apparently, Oregon's governor signed the petition right away, but New Mexico's governor was a little bit more hesitant. He did not want such a dangerous criminal in his state. So, Cammie, Brooke's mother, personally reached out to the New Mexico governor and explained everything their family had been through and how badly they needed closure. And that was just what the governor needed. He wanted to be sure the family was confident in the decision, and he also wanted confirmation that Joel Courtney would receive life in prison without parole. He did not want there to be any chance of this extremely dangerous man to ever be released.
Which is all very understandable.
Yeah. So with the confirmation of life without parole and the support of Brooke's family, the governor of New Mexico signed the petition and a deal was made. So Joel admitted to his crimes. He explained that on the morning of May 24th, he was high on cocaine. He drove up to Brooke and asked her for help delivering a package. When she approached the van, he pulled out a knife and forced her inside. He said she began screaming and that he then drove west toward the town of Philomath. He kept her tied up in the van for hours and even went through a McDonald's drive-thru. He said that he continued using drugs throughout the day, and before nightfall, he raped her. She apparently had fought back, and he killed her by hitting her in the head with a piece of wood. She then died, and he left her in the woods. Joel drew a map showing where he had left her, which was about 5 miles west of Philomath in the woods. And this location was only about 10 miles from the apartment complex where Brooke had been taken. So when authorities initially searched for Brooke's body, where Joel had said she was, they could not find her. And so they were wondering, if Joel had lied to them. So investigators went back to him, and he provided more specific details. The following day, they returned to the area, and on September 9th of 2010, around 9:40 a.m., using a cadaver dog, they located remains about 100 yards from the highway. They ended up finding her clothing and then her remains, and they also found a watch. And because authorities knew that it would take time to officially identify the remains, a detective called Cammie and asked her to describe the watch Brooke had been wearing the day she disappeared. And it was identical to the one that they had found. It was the watch Brooke got for her last Christmas with her mom. With that, they knew the remains were Brooke Wilberger's. And finally, the family could rest, knowing that she had been found and that Joel had upheld his end of the bargain. And on September 20th, Joel pleaded guilty to one count of aggravated murder and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. He was given a life of solitude within the prison system.
Because he's so evil.
Yes. So after Joel Courtney's sentencing, Cammie Wilberger made this statement. She said, "It might be hard for you to understand, but at this time, we just really feel gratitude, even to Mr. Courtney, that he could see fit to tell us where he left Brooke. And for our family, what happens to him, we're thankful that justice was served and that he will not have the opportunity for parole."
Now, I think this statement, Bev, is just so indicative to how amazing the Wilbergers are. The amount of kindness, love that they live their lives with, that they have the capability to show gratitude, that he actually followed through with his plans, despite him also being the person that took Brooke away from them, right?
Yeah.
All around, they just seem like a really loving, caring family and
Good people.
Yeah, and I just don't know that many people would ever profess any gratitude to the person that killed their loved one. So, I mean, I get the reasoning for sure, but it just shows how wonderful they must be. We don't know them, obviously, but I think that statement shows their character to the core.
It's how can you move forward? And it's by seeing the good or what good you can find in a terrible situation. And I think they managed to do that. And I commend them for that.
100%.
So at the end of the day, I think it's important to just remember that Brooke was so much more than the way her story ended. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and just a young woman who had plans for a future and was working towards making the world a better place when her life was taken from her. What her and her family endured was unimaginable. So our hearts stay with the Wilberger family, and yeah, I'm proud of them for the way they handled themselves through this whole thing.
For sure, because it's easier said than done, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, Becky, this is the case of Brooke Wilberger, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing.
And I love you hugely.
I love you hugely too.
And we love all of our listeners hugely. Until next time. And just your weekly reminder to download our weekly episodes, follow us on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, and give us a follow on our social medias. You can find us at Luminol on the Wall. Can't wait till next week.